Hello, and welcome back to a brand new week. This is episode 7, and this week I've got another 5-parter for you. It's not always going to be in 5 parts. Sometimes I'll have episodes that I know that I want to share with you. But just while we get in the flow of this brand new show, Your Personal Brand Plan, I want to give you a process to play with, something to experiment with, something to really go in deep with. And this is the work that I love to do. And this week, I want to talk about your big dreams. And I want to talk about them in a very actionable way. And often when I hear people talking about big dreams, this might be over a glass of wine, or yesterday we went to a party and we stayed out late. And invariably after a few drinks, people start talking about the trips they want to take or the things that they want to do, or they start talking about the future. And sometimes what can happen is their dreams, their future is so far away, it doesn't feel like it's in the here and now. And people sometimes talk in these places and spaces of 5-year plans or their bucket list. And I really see it as my responsibility, because I have all these tools and techniques, to help you to speed up the timeline and bring it into the now. Actually, there is a brand new free workshop on my free workshops page all about speeding up the timeline of your 5-year plan. So if you want to go deeper into that, go in, log in. There are actually 6 in the library. So if you want to get stuck into some more free workshops, you can absolutely do that. So today is Monday, and on a Monday we talk about your big dreams, but also your strategy, making a plan, making it happen, and really beginning to sow the seeds of that. I know that people love to talk about an overnight success, but I don't actually believe in them. And even if you do have that chance meeting or that thing that suddenly happens seemingly out of nowhere, I believe that in order to have that sustainable change, in order to fully embody that next version of yourself, you have to do the groundwork. So in today, I want to firstly ask you, what do you want to be, do, have, and feel? If you followed for a while, you have no doubt done this exercise with me. It's a really popular coaching tool. And for me, it's so great at breaking down the process. I think that for so many of us, we didn't necessarily know how to say fully what it is that we wanted. I think especially for many girls, we were taught to be so accommodating, like, I'll be whatever you want me to be. I'll just be easygoing and fit in. And I remember being at sixth form college, actually, and there were a couple of lads, and I remember them describing a woman, and they were really acknowledging and almost with relief, like, oh, she's really easygoing, like she's no problem, she's no trouble, she's not going to question anything. And I think that this thing of a nagging woman or somebody who speaks too much, it really messed things up in that 90s situation. And so when it comes to then goal setting, I think lots of people are like, can I say that? Is that okay to want what I want? Or is that too much? Or I don't want people to think that I'm greedy. And so breaking it down into this process, and you might want to do this right now, or if you're driving or having a walk while you're listening to this, just think about it in your head. But grab a piece of paper and create 4 columns. So the be, do, have, and feel. And I want you to write down everything that comes to mind in terms of those categories. So in the B category, the kind of person that you want to be, maybe the kind of leader that you want to be, the kind of parent you want to be, or friend. And I want you to get very specific in terms of what that looks and feels like. So if you are saying, I want to be more confident, or I want to really feel like I'm in my dream body, or whatever that might be, I want you to get into the specifics so you really fully understand what that means. And the reason that this is so important is there are no success police who are going to come along and say, great, now you're going to do the thing. You get to choose. You get to choose all of it, which just always feels so good. So if you are, for example, writing, I'd like to really have a holiday this year, write down what it is that you would like. And sometimes when we're doing this, it's like, well, I don't know what I would like any holiday. It would be fantastic, lovely. Turn the question around and ask yourself what you absolutely don't want. So if somebody was to offer me a free holiday, for example, I am available. But if somebody said, you get to go and ski for 2 weeks, for me already, the way that that feels in my body, I would think, well, that actually doesn't feel like a holiday to me. That feels like I'd really be starting from scratch. That feels not relaxing. And then what happens is when you work out what the opposite is, that's when you begin to refine what you actually want. So the fact that I'm immediately saying, well, that's not relaxing, that tells me that I am seeking a relaxing holiday. I am seeking places and spaces where I can take the family, where we can have good food and drink, or whatever that might be. So I want you to firstly set this thing out, and then I want you to notice what feels urgent to you, what feels exciting, and what feels compelling. Because to go back to our title of what we are talking about this week, I want to begin this rhythm so the process of this goal coming towards you right now is quicker. We're speeding up the process in this little and often way. And this is often the opposite to what we are told. We are told that we will know when the perfect time is, when we carve out a big chunk of time where we can do the thing. Now, I have my children at 33 and 37. And I know with a 5-year-old, my daughter is going to be living at home and I'm going to be responsible for her for many, many more years now. So for me, in this period of life, and as somebody who is ambitious and my children want to do things, can we do this? Can we go here? And that very much is part of our lives. I can't wait until I'm in my mid-50s to get these dreams up and running. I have to find a way where these dreams that I have and my current busy family life, how they can work together. So this thing of little and often, almost like, and you'll see it if you're watching on the podcast, like you're almost like going back and then coming away and then like going back to the base camp, like dropping in actions each and every day that are eventually going to grow what it is that you want. Step number 2, once you've looked at the be, do, have, and feel, I want you to begin to pick some goals that we're going to begin the process with. So you might want to pick one, or I would, just for the purposes of the exercise, pick a maximum of 3, because otherwise, if you're like, I've got to do 27 goals today, that feels a lot to manage. So for the exercise, pick a goal, couple of goals, and I want you to imagine this goal sitting opposite you. Almost like you've come into a cafe, you've ordered a drink, you order a drink for your goal, and you're there to talk about where you're up to. I want you to describe your current relationship with your goal. How well do you know it? How close do you feel? Is this the first time that you're meeting because suddenly you've had that epiphany within yourself of, oh, that's what I want to do. That's the thing that makes my heart sing. Maybe this dawning is very, very fresh. Or maybe this has been something that has been in the back of your mind. It's always been in the background. If somebody asks you what you want, this thing will always come up. But yet there isn't that conversation. it still feels very distant. It still feels very far away. It feels familiar, but you're not in daily conversation with it. Or maybe there feels like some barriers in there. Maybe you know that you want this thing, but it hasn't shown up yet. So maybe you're beginning to talk a little bit dirty on this thing behind its back, like, oh yeah, well, I did say that I wanted this, but it hasn't shown up, and that's really annoying because I've been working hard. Maybe you've got some like negative energy surrounding it. So I want you to imagine yourself sitting with this goal and really beginning this conversation, because this is what it's to do with. It's about building that relationship. If you look at the other relationships in your life, I'm sure the ones that are the strongest are the ones that are connected. Maybe that is a relationship that you have and you see every day. Maybe that's a relationship in your home. But equally, there could be some relationships that you have just fallen away in your life because of locality or different paths that you've been on, different interests. I want you to reconnect with that goal. And this is a great exercise to do each and every day. You could take this to a journal, you could take it on a run or walking back from the school run or thinking about it in your car, whatever it might be, or even, pressing the kettle and waiting for your cup of tea. Just having that moment of saying, hi goal, where are we up to today? What's happening? What do you need from me? What do we need to talk about? Where are we up to? Are we moving forward? Are we moving towards each other? Or are we moving away? What is blocking and stopping this relationship? And I want you to see this as a living thing, something that is vibrating, that is, it's like it's there. It's ready for you to be in connection with, not in the back of a drawer somewhere, not something that you have to pull out from the back of the cupboard and like, oh, what is this goal? I want it to be a living, breathing thing. Number 3, when we do goal setting, when we think about what we want, sometimes there is a secondary feeling. The primary feeling is of excitement and, oh, I'd love to do that. And that sounds really great. And wouldn't that be cool? And you've got that fizz and that excitement. And then the secondary feeling can be, but I'm not there yet. It's going to take ages. I'm really frustrated. Why haven't I done this sooner? I always mess this up, or whatever else is going on. And so, firstly, you can acknowledge that feeling. And I think that's good, rather than being like, no, it's fine. Like, see what's coming up to the surface. We're clearing the path, remember. We're creating this brand new relationship. So clear it up, by all means. However, I want you then to have a counter argument. An argument, a phrase, a powerful chat that says, okay, I haven't done X, Y, and Z, or I'm not as far as I thought I was going to be. But in the other areas of my life, remember I've done X, Y, and Z. And I've certainly felt like this in my parenting journey, actually. This is a very honest confession. But sometimes I've felt there have been years over the last 10 years where I've just felt like I'm not moving my career. I'm not doing the things that I want to be doing. Or sometimes I get in my head and I will talk all kinds of nonsense to myself about how I should have done it by now, or all of that. And I have to stop, and I have to stop seeing the outside success as the biggest thing. When we do the wheel of life in coaching, which is essentially you draw a circle on a piece of paper and then you section it into about 8 or 10 slices, and you label them and you look at the different areas of your life. So whether that's health and well-being, that's relationships, that could be parenting, that could be work and career, that could be adventure, it could be education, all of it, it's personal to whoever's doing the exercise. And then if I look, actually career would only be one of those slices. I would never want a life that is 100% career. And so sometimes we forget to look at all the other aspects. So as point number 3, I want you to look at the brilliant, brilliant things that you have done in your life. And I want you to capture them. I want you to write them down. And we all have these stories, and inevitably they'll come out on a girls' night out where it's like, oh my gosh, you remember when you told your boss that you weren't coming back? Or do you remember when you ended that relationship at the airport because enough was enough and he was treating you so badly, or whatever it might be? Those moments of adversity, when you're faced with adversity, when you've needed tenacity and resilience and like girl power, badassery of, right, I've got to sort this out. Okay, here we go. That line in the sand, or that sliding doors moment. I want you to have that bank of knowledge and success already to propel you forward, rather than you feeling like you're starting small from this zero place. I essentially want all of this experience and background and stories and moments and magical moments to have that wall of foundational, let's go, you can do this, and to operate and start from there, that little and often. Because sometimes what can happen, if we tell ourselves we're starting from zero, we never do it. The hill is too hilly to climb. We just feel like it's going to be too much. Like, how are we going to start this? So going back to this little and often situation, it's going to be so, so powerful. Number 4, I want you to begin the daily measurables right now. One of the conversations that clients have with me is they know what they want, but they have no idea how this is going to happen. And we had this when we wanted to move. In 2022, we finally moved. But for about 5 years before that, I really wanted to move, but our work was inconsistent. There was COVID, there was all sorts of things. It felt like a really scary time to move. And in order to make that next leap, it just felt really out of reach. And so instead of focusing on like how difficult it was going to be, how hard it was going to be, I got into the flow of what can I do to start the rhythm, almost like start the baseline in the background of moving it forward. And so what I decided to do was to get so familiar with Rightmove. I studied that market so much. And this was definitely at a time where I was like lying outside the door of my kids or lying next to them whilst they fell asleep. And they kind of like their own personal space. And so, I would be there and I could like turn this way. We'd obviously had that connection moment beforehand, but they just wanted me to know that I was in the room. So every single night I would study the market of Rightmove. I understood it so much. So by the time in 2021, that moment came where we were beginning to think about it, I felt so armed with the knowledge. And I truly believe that part of that built that confidence to be able to move fast, to be in the flow, to ask the right questions. And so instead of feeling that huge gap from where you are right now to where you want to get to, this is your reminder today to get into the rhythm, to start now. I often used to find this when I was an agent. People used to say things like, just get me in the room with the big people. When I get the call, I will be so ready. And from a mindset point of view, you might be like, yeah, of course, I can turn it on, I can deliver. And sometimes that moment will have, we've seen it on the X Factor where they go in and they absolutely nail it. But for most people, it's been about building the reps behind the scenes, practicing, doing the things. And that's why, in terms of my speaking, for example, I know that I can speak for hours off the cuff because I've built those reps. I've built that repetition again and again and again. Number 5, we have to really understand the truth of where we are and where we want to get to. And on the surface, there may be all of these blocks that we have acknowledged. Maybe it's like, well, they don't know who I am, or I haven't got the money yet, or how could I pull together a team to make that happen? Or I don't have time at the moment to dedicate the energy to do X, Y, and Z. I want you to acknowledge all of those surface things. Like, let's really see, like, what is going on? What is really in the way of where you are right now and where you want to get to? And then what I want you to do is keep peeling back the onion, seeing what's underneath, what's really going on underneath. And I remember once that realization of visibility. This is a great one, actually, if you're in business. On the one hand, we focus and we go, well, I haven't got a social media team, or I haven't got a 15-person crew to make this content. And then sometimes when you peel it back, there might be a little sentence that slips out and it's like, yeah, and also I'd be really scared if somebody I went to school with saw this video. I'd feel really embarrassed. And I remember this in the beginning of my coaching journey. I just used to think that I'd really gone for my acting dream, and I still do that. But I just thought, what if people think that I'm doing something else and that I failed at something else? And when you pull all these things apart, when you peel back the layers and layers and layers, that's when you really get into conversations. And these pieces of evidence, these pieces of information are going to be so useful, because when you have your daily little and often meeting with your goals, you can say, okay, what do you want to talk about today? And then you might get that thought of, that thing that is blocking me, I really need to deal with. I really need to come up with another way where I can break this cycle. And I had this a while ago when I worked through something with my own coach, and I came up with one of these blocks. And she said to me, oh, how long has that block been around? And I said, I think it was in year 9 in my English class. And I took it back to that visualization. I was like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that dangerous looking building, you know, those tower blocks. I think it was then. And it was only until I really put myself back there. And when I put myself back there, it was so real in the visualization. And then when I took a step back, I realized that that was 30 years old. That story, that way of being was 30 years old. And I also realized that I never have to go back to that school, to that thing, to that scenario, to hang with those people, to be in that position in my life. And so why was I operating from that little girl version of myself? And so this meeting, this little and often, will really allow you to feel that every day you are pulling away layers that do not serve you. Instead of just saying, I really want that goal, I've asked the universe for it, and now I'm just going to sit back and wait. We know that we have to be in motion. And I always joke about the universe, like the universe has heard you, whatever you like to call it, God, the universe, spirit, however you like to put it out there into the world. It's heard you, but now it wants to know, what are you going to do? What's your next step? How are you going to progress forward? So much to think about, so much to process. I would love to know how you've got on today. And I'd love you to come back tomorrow and subscribe and follow along. We're going to be talking about money tomorrow, which is always a juicy topic, especially in terms of goal setting. But again, I'm going to give you some really practical exercises to really get to the heart of what's going on so you can move forward in the way that you want to. I have also a brand new event that is coming on the 30th of June. So go to my event tab tab and check that out. You're not going to want to miss it because it's going to be great. You can read all about that there. If you want to book a one-on-one session as well, don't forget to use the podcast promo code. If you add podcast into checkout with anything that I have, you will get that lovely juicy discount just for following along and being here. I hope you have a beautiful day. I will see you tomorrow bright and early. Lots of love and see you then.